Hi everyone, my name is Kayla. This is my channel Reviving Kayla, and today I want to talk to you about how I passed my real estate licensing exam on the very first try. Hopefully sharing more of my personal journey and my own tips and tricks will help you also pass on your first try. But if not, and you've already taken it the first time and you did not pass, hopefully it'll help you pass the next time you sit for your exam. All right, so I'll just start and begin by saying that I live in the state of Virginia. So some of the things that I share might be very specific to this state. For example, in order to qualify to sit down and take the licensing exam in Virginia, you have to do, I think it's 60 hours course credit at a real estate school before you can sit for your exam. At least where I am in 2026, when I sat for my exam, I went through the Mosley Real Estate School program. I know there are other ones out there. I know that, there's a whole list you can go through. There are options for you, like you can take it in person, you can do it self-paced online, or you can do it in a group classroom setting, but online. I opted, because of my lifestyle, I opted to do mine online self-paced. Now, I am I have a lot of ADHD tendencies. I have not officially been diagnosed, so that's why I'm saying tendencies. However, everyone in my life will tell you, everyone has suspected, and I am working on getting diagnosed, or at least getting evaluated or whatever. If you have any tips on how to navigate that as an adult, please reach out to me because I'm trying to figure out how to do it. Anyway, getting back on track. I did mine online self-paced. That was a really hard decision for me. I work best in a group in-person setting to keep me on track, no distractions, but my lifestyle this season, I have a 2-year-old daughter, she's a toddler, and because childcare was unreliable, she stayed home with me. That was a huge proponent of me taking a career pivot into real estate anyway. Is my regular 9 to 5 just did not work with our season of life and our lifestyle. I did online self-paced, and I made sure while going through all of the coursework that I took meticulous notes. So that'll be my first best practice, or my first tip and trick for you, is to take very meticulous notes as you're learning the course. I know that you might have seen, because you're watching this video, if you might have seen other videos say that, just learn enough for you to pass, because most of what you learn in real estate school, you don't use in real estate sales or in real life as an agent. I'm going to tell you that I kind of towed that line. Like I had a nice balance of understanding mentally that a lot of what I learned here might not be practically applicable to my career field. However, in order for me to be able to sit and take the exam and pass in the first try, I needed to learn the material. I needed to learn it to some degree where I wasn't trying to remember everything, because if you are in the middle of your real estate coursework, you can see there's a lot of information, a lot of numbers, a lot of math, a lot of vocab. And if I didn't learn to some degree that information, there was no way possible I was going to be able to just pull it out of my head, like out of my memory, every single thing I needed. That being said, I just took and trusted in my notes. I took good notes through all of the coursework, through every section. I made sure to take good notes. Even though I had a virtual textbook or ebook, or I had a virtual study guide, I made sure to handwrite everything. Even if that meant, because I was doing online self-paced, that I was just handwriting sentences as I was reading it. Putting it in my own writing, my own handwriting, marking it up with pretty colors, helped me take in the information and store it. Otherwise, I would have just read it and not remember a single thing. And let me tell you, from these notes, as I moved further into the process of finishing real estate school and then preparing to sit for my licensing exam, I just reviewed my notes. I didn't reopen the study guides. I didn't reopen the textbook because it was confusing. I tried and I was like, no, I'm not going to go through 80 pages just to find one solution or one vocab word. I just went back to my notes. And because all of my vocab words were in a bright, fun color, it was easy to find, to reference if I needed it. So that's my number one best practice or best tip, is to take meticulous, thorough notes. Boom. 2, I highly encourage you to take as many practice quizzes as you can. So I did 60 practice quizzes total before I sat for my licensing exam. After I finished my real estate course, I did 60 practice quizzes and then I sat for my exam. My goal was to do 30. I did 60. And I do think the quizzes probably taught me the most. Not only did it teach me the format of questions that the licensing exam, favors. It's very interesting, that format. It's not straight to the point. They're tricky questions. They're meant to stump you. They're meant to make you think. They're meant to make you overthink and kind of second guess yourself. So getting familiar with the test format was really helpful to me. Also, every time you get a question wrong in the practice exam, at least the ones I use with Mosley, I know the prep agent ones are like that as well. And I'm not sure about any others because I didn't use any others, but I think the rest are like that as well. So I did the Mosley Real Estate School, all the practice quizzes. It would tell you when you got the answer wrong, what was the correct answer and why. And that taught me the most, because something about making a mistake and not wanting to make a mistake again makes my brain want to store that information for later. Now, that could be a psychology thing, or that could just be the way that I work. But doing the practice quizzes, every time I got something wrong, I would say to myself, great, an opportunity to learn. Like, not to be like a weird, cringy, optimistic, whatever, hoo-ha, but an opportunity to learn. So failing is my opportunity to learn. If I failed a practice quiz, great. Now I know what the correct answer is and I can retake it. And I did that on and on and on and on again. Like, for me, I just told myself my original goal was 30 quizzes. I didn't care if I passed them all. I said, we're gonna do 30 practice quizzes. And that was my goal. Once I hit 30, I was like, oh, okay, let's keep going. I did get most of the practice quizzes wrong on the first time. Some of them I got right, but most of them I got wrong, because just like the licensing exam, there's a certain amount of questions you have to get right in order to pass. So the practice quizzes on Mosley, at least, were also like that. Like, if you needed 4 out of 4 to pass and you got 3 out of 4, okay, you just didn't pass. So, but you got to learn what the right answer was. Anyway, I digress. If you have any questions about my practice quiz strategy, feel free to drop them in the comments below. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I know I can talk fast and I'm really animated and excited, but just drop any questions in the comments below and I'll be sure to put, clarify anything if I breeze over it too fast. And then the last tip and trick that I have, at least for today, is to make sure the span of time between finishing your real estate coursework and taking your licensing exam should be like this. If you finish your coursework on a Friday, take your test on Monday. Or take your test, I wouldn't go more than 1 week, maybe 2 weeks max. After you finish and pass your real estate school, at least for Mosley, there is a final exam you have to pass. I don't know about any of the other schools, but if that's similar where you are, once you finish and get your certificate of completion from your real estate school, I wouldn't recommend taking any more than a week, max 2, before sitting for your licensing exam, because that information that you have studied and learned is freshest on your brain. If there are topics though, in between, once you complete real estate school, if there are topics that you need to refresh on, it's a great, you can spend a couple of days, spend a weekend refreshing on that material. I don't think you need a full week. I ended up having to take a full week because when I went to book the actual licensing exam, I didn't realize the slots to go like this. So I had thought, oh, I can just book it and then the next day take it. No. So I wasn't able to get a slot until the next week. So that's why there was more space in mine. So I do recommend, if your schedule is predictable, to go ahead and just book your licensing exam immediately or very soon after finishing your real estate school. But I mean, yeah, as long as it's within 2 weeks, I think that's great. Any more than that, then I think I feel like you're wasting. Let me not use you. I feel like if it was me, I would have wasted my time and energy learning, remembering, that momentum. I would have lost that momentum that I had to complete real estate school, instead of just using that momentum I'd already built up to take the licensing exam like the next day. Well, I think I had to wait. There is a little bit of a waiting period between like your real estate school communicating with whoever they need to communicate with in order for you to sit for your exam, but it was very short. It was like 1 business day. I just happened to pass real estate school on a Friday, so I got the message on Monday that I could schedule my exam. And then what else? Yeah, so those are my 3 things that I would recommend. Personally, how my actual journey went was I started real estate school, bought the course, didn't really touch it for a week because I looked at it and I was like, did I really pick self-paced? I'm a prime procrastinator. Did I really pick self-paced? And I had to personally give myself a goal. Okay, I knew that if I finished real estate school by a certain day, I would get I would be able to go to TJ Maxx and for a certain amount of money and spend money on clothing for my new career, for the summer. And that was my goal. Okay, I really wanted new clothes. Okay, I made that my goal. I need to finish real estate school by this day. And I also had a goal for passing my real estate exam. And I have it written down on paper. If you want to see it, drop it in the comments below. I can do another video about how I stayed on track and made my goal and accomplished my goal ahead of time, just to I don't know, make stuff happen. I don't want to claim ADHD because I want to be sensitive, but I also know that, my whole life I have struggled with my attention and my focus and being more hyperactive my entire life. Growing up the way I grew up, it just wasn't socially acceptable to, pursue evaluating those things or take medication for those things. Times have changed, and, I'm personally on that journey of going through that. So I don't want to say how to pass, like things that I did to help myself study while having my brain work like that. But I knew that I needed goals, numbers, and accountability. I had someone that would check in with me who knew what my goals were and what my dates were, and who was the person that was going to render that incentive, who was going to give me the gift card only after I completed my goal. So that's something I had to do for myself. But to summarize, started real estate school, kind of freaked out a little bit, realized I needed a plan and accountability in order to finish it within my desired timeline. I finished the course within, once I started, 30 days. There were about 2 weeks that I kind of didn't touch it but had bought it. But once I had started, it took me about, I'll have to get the specific days, but I finished it within a month. And then when I sat for my real estate licensing exam, it was like a week and a weekend after. So 10 days after. And I took my licensing exam from home because that's an option. I took my licensing exam from home at 4:30 a.m. on a Monday. 4:30 a.m. on a Monday. And I finished it like 7:15. And I saw it said pass, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I told maybe 2 people that I was taking it that early. And that's the slot they had open, and that was when my baby was going to be asleep. So I was like, okay, I'm a mama. I got to work with my schedule, 4:30 a.m. And I started the day on a high because I passed before she had even woken up. But everyone else I knew that was rooting for me, they just knew the exam was going to be on a Monday. I didn't want people in my ear saying, oh my gosh, aren't you worried it's going to be too early? Aren't you worried you're going to be too tired? Aren't you worried about like Esther, my daughter might wake up? And so I deliberately decided just not to tell people. And even for real estate school, my circle was very small about who I communicated with that I was pursuing, you know, getting my real estate license. And that's because I personally am very externally motivated and influenced. So I knew that if people got in my ear, you know, about, well, it's gonna be hard, or like there was someone that was like, well, I didn't pass on the first time, so, you know, if you don't pass, it's okay. I know myself. I know when I set myself up with a goal that I'm going to accomplish it. I just need accountability. So I secured the bag and accountability and made sure I crushed my goals. And I crushed my goals ahead of schedule by doing those 3 things. So 1, take great notes. If you need them to be vibrantly colored or whatever, make it vibrantly colored. 2, take as many practice quizzes as you can. That was really the game changer for me, because every time you get something wrong in a practice quiz, it's going to tell you the correct answer and it's going to tell you why it's the correct answer. That was the best way for me to learn. 3, make sure as soon as you finish your real estate school and you complete it and you are qualified to sit for licensing exam, don't take more than 2 weeks. Like, oh, honestly, don't take more than a week if you can help it to sit for the exam. All right, that's all for me today. Thank you for staying with me if you stayed this long through the video. Feel free to leave a comment below about how your real estate journey is going, whether you're just starting, you've already passed, you're just getting... Leave a comment below about your real estate journey wherever you are. If you've already passed, if you've been in the business for 10 years, whatever, I want to hear about it. If you have any questions about my personal journey, feel free to ask. If there's something I brushed over way too quickly, drop a comment. I'm happy to go and just expound upon anything. I'm really excited, looking forward to this journey. I've already found the brokerage I'm going to be working with. I'm so excited, so stoked. Love you guys. Thank you for watching. Bye. Like and subscribe.